Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. I am Dave Biddle, very happy joined by Matt Baxendell. We're going to talk about the number one team in the nation, the defending national champions, fresh off a win against Texas. We're going to give our main takeaways from the Texas game, really push it forward, though. Like, what does it really mean moving forward? First thing, Bax, good to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Biddle. Excited to be here. Talk about the number one Buckeyes once more.
That's right, number one. I first time they've been number one in both polls at the same time. I heard this morning since 2015. I was like, really? I thought in 2019 at some point they were, but whatever. It's good to be king. All right, let's start with the main takeaways. Let's obviously start with Matt Patricia in this defense. I loved how creative he was, rolling different guys through, and just man, you could just see how confused Arch was most of the time. But just your thoughts on Matt Patricia and the Silver Bullets.
Well, I mean, from a starting perspective, this couldn't be any better, right? It's a game that Texas had one score the whole game in the fourth quarter, and it was a questionable review of whether or not the ball hit the ground. There's a very easy scenario to see. Matt Patricia deserves a ton of credit for this. Arch Manning looked confused from the jump. I think also Arch Manning looked nervous from the jump. Let's be real honest here. If you ever saw the high school film he played against, it's not exactly Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles coming after him. So that's a factor too. But what Matt Patricia did was very much high end in terms of disguising kind of how they were covering every play. Like, our secondary looked good and coached up and like they knew what they were doing, but Texas had no idea what they were doing pre-snap. You know, it's amazing what happens when you play teams that don't know the play call. And Texas really struggled to even try to identify it on the field. So Matt Patricia, after 1 week, looks like an absolute grand slam of a hire. But, you know, it's only 1 week, and it's only 1 week in August. So I think we have to make sure we're a little calmer about it than just assuming we're automatically repeating like some people are right now.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask you about some of the position battles that we now know, like who won what, for example, Jalen McClain later. But I want to get to Julian Sayin. The stats aren't going to do it justice for a variety of reasons. He had like at least 3 well-placed balls that were dropped, only got 20 attempts. So instead of 16 for 20, he's 13 to 20 right there. That's still 65%, even with those 3 drops. And when the defense is just kicking ass like that, you're not going, especially a quarterback making his first ever start against a really good Texas defense. You're gonna go pretty conservative. And Ryan Day said yesterday they probably went too conservative, especially that last drive. That last drive, they could have put the game away. So in retrospect, he's like, yeah, we were a little too conservative there. I love that he owns that. But the biggest takeaway I had from Julian Sayin was we knew he was accurate, quick release, and all that good stuff. Man, he was cool, calm, and collected. And the coolest of cats could get rattled in a situation like that. And he never, ever once did the moment look too big for him, Bax. That was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I've been saying that they didn't really take the shrink wrap off of him the whole game. And whenever they did let him make some throws, they were on point. Like, I was joking at one point watching the game. I'm like, man, if he was just a little more accurate, they're only hitting him right in the face. You know, like he was throwing very well. You could argue there was a 4th ball that very realistically could have been brought in from those 7 incompletions. And it's a different story right now. You know, I think the way people are talking about Julian Sayin, if some of those early catches, I mean, the first throw was a 4th down play action that he hit his guy right in the hands on. So, like, the reality is, Ryan Day said it like immediately after the game on TV press conference too. He goes, we probably could have given him more. Yes, you could have given him more. I was more excited about Julian Sayin's performance in this game than almost anything else. Because let's face it, win or lose, this is an August football between 2 teams with very young quarterbacks going against much more experienced defenses. These teams are going to be very different in November, very different in December, both of them. And looking at what we have with Sayin, walking out of this game, you have to feel wildly better about your quarterback if you're Ohio State than you do if you're Texas. Julian Sayin was in control. The moment never looked too big. His mechanics never were flawed because he thought he was under pressure. He made a number of really good throws. There was one he made under pressure in the end zone that he hit, I think, Carnell Tate on a comeback on. That was that's a big boy throw. And at the end of the day, he looks like he could be living up to the hype this year. Ryan Day, I don't think felt like he needed to let him come close to show that he could live up to the hype in his first game. It was game management a lot with him. But I'm telling you right now, this is a guy this season, by the end of the year, is going to be a very dynamic, dangerous quarterback for other teams to go against. And I'm extremely excited from what we saw from Sayin. It was better than I expected, to be honest.
Yeah. What I did not expect was CJ Donaldson would be the starting running back and James Peoples would be the backup. I kind of joked a little bit at the press conference yesterday with Ryan Day. I was like, I think we were so busy asking you about quarterback battle. And like, even though that seemed like it was obvious to me, at least, that Julian was going to be the guy, but, and everything else we were asking him about during camp, I don't think one time we ever asked him, is there any chance that James Peoples not the number one and CJ is not the number two? We knew both were going to play a lot, just like Quinshawn and Travion last year backs. But like I thought James Peoples would be the starter, CJ would be the backup. No. And then you watch the game, it's easy to see why. CJ looks like the better back. I didn't think James played bad. I think the offensive line was not getting good push in the run game. They did a good job in pass pro. But it's easy to see. And CJ's a veteran guy. They're going to need both of them. They're going to need Bo Jackson. But man, that was interesting seeing CJ get the start.
He's a big pounding tailback in a game where their game plan was to try to pound the ball. It was a very Tressel game, this game from Ohio State. Yes. They ran the same run play up the middle like 15 times, and they were going to keep coming at you, and then they were going to do stuff off of play action. And guess what? When you have a guy like CJ Donaldson, who probably is going to get more extra yards than Peoples at this point in time, you're going to ride him a little bit. But the running game, Dave, wasn't great. 19 carries for your top two tailbacks, 87 yards. 29 carries for 87 yards. That's 3 yards a carry. That will not get it done over the
3 yards in a cloud of dust, baby. No,
exactly. No, it was. I literally was like having flashbacks to Tressel running the Dave play. Like that was the go-to. This was like Brian Hartline, we all thought was going to be this Ryan Day disciple. No, he's following his head coach, which was run it up the middle, play action.
That's my next topic. It's funny you brought that up. And we were talking about this amongst ourselves, like the media, because Ryan Day's not going to. If you ask Ryan Day, the people are, why don't you just ask Ryan Day? If you ask Ryan Day, are you really calling the plays? Let's say he is. He's not going to throw Brian Hartline under the bus. Okay. He's not, but reading between the lines, he was kind of taking ownership for stuff. It kind of didn't seem like, well, yeah, just let this huge game. Brian Hartline's never called plays before. I just turned him loose and said, good luck, Brian. Like, to me, and I think most reporters, like, not that I talked to everybody on the beat, most of us seem to agree that if Dave wasn't calling all the plays, he was certainly calling most of them, was our guess. Is that your same takeaway?
I very much strongly think that they were following a game plan where this was 90% Day. I think Brian Hartline will take over more against Grambling, yes. OU. They might take the shrink wrap off of him a little bit against Washington. We'll see how that game goes. Look, it's like letting your kid drive for the first time. You don't really feel super great about it. You got to kind of test the waters a lot before you feel comfortable with it. And you're not going to let your kid drive a Lambo the first time. You're letting your kid drive a junker. So this was Ryan Day having Brian Hartline riding in the front seat of the Lambo, maybe letting him drive like one block, and then that's fine. At the end of the day, this is the biggest game in college football last weekend. Ryan Day wasn't going to throw his quarterback or his new coordinator to the Wolves, and that's a smart thing. That the way he handled both, I think.
All right, let's kick over to back to the defense. So Jalen McClain started. We predicted that. I think they said it was a close battle in camp with Malik Hartford, but McClain he seemed to pop last year, and then he was an Iron Buckeye. So it just seemed like to me like McClain would start, and he did, and he played really well. What I did not expect was that McClain would play every defensive snap, and Malik Hartford would play no defensive snaps. Now, Malik was all over special teams. I still think they're going to need Malik defensively. Devin Sanchez played a lot. When they went into that dime look, the sixth was Devin Sanchez, as expected, the true freshman, ready to roll. The only reason he's not starting right away is because they're so loaded at corner with Jermaine Matthews, interception. Igbinosun all over the field, led the team in tackles. But yeah, get into that. PI. Yeah, exactly. Yes, good point. Jalen McClain playing every defensive snap. Devin Sanchez playing a big role as a true freshman. And Malik Hartford not even seeing the field defensively. Your thoughts?
Well, they went to some interesting packages down the stretch. They went to a set where they had 6 DBs on, and then they had the 2 linebackers because Styles and Reese aren't going to come off the field this year. But the 3 linemen were all D ends. They didn't even have a D tackle on the field in those scenarios. So this is them trying to figure out all these different situations of how they're going to utilize their personnel. And Sanchez was the dime back in that situation. And hey, that's a couple guys he's jumped over to get on the field to be the 6th guy. I noticed that like late in the game. I'm like, oh, 6 is out there. Okay. Those are the little things that we were noticing as it goes. But I was so impressed with this secondary. They were straight up sticky. Like there were not a lot of open guys running around out there. Igmanosin got a lot of heck from everyone, including me, that he was getting all those PI calls last year. Hey, his hands were off. He was looking at the football more this game already. Jermaine Matthews was awesome. And, the whole thing, it's easy, I think, in a lot of ways to make everybody look solid whenever you're built around a guy like Downs that can do just everything. And it totally disrupts an offense's rhythm. So I was super impressed with the back 7 on defense from Ohio State. The coverage was excellent. The linebackers were attacking. The scheming of getting them in position to succeed across the board was excellent. Really, the only thing about the D-line you could complain about is that we didn't hold up superb against the run. Texas still ran for 166 yards. That has to get worked on. We have some concerns about depth at D-tackle. You could already see with the way we're deploying the personnel. But how much are we going to complain when you hold the number 1 team in the country to a 7-point outing and you stop them on downs 4 times and you pick a ball off? Probably could have been 2. The one Sonny had was a very questionable whether that could have been overturned or not. Like the ball hit the ground, but he had possession. To me, OSU lost both of those challenges. They easily could have won both those challenges, and that would have skewed this game even further.
Yeah, it did seem like the same logic should apply with Sonny's play as applied with the eventual touchdown. But, I thought overall, the SEC refs, particularly the on-field refs, did a good job. When I saw it was SEC refs, I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. I thought overall they did a good job. I want to touch on this. I did have Jarquez Carter down here in my notes. Yes, I didn't forget about number 1, true freshman defensive tackle, Jarquez Carter. Now, he only played 3 snaps, but the fact that he did play 3 snaps.
He played 3 snaps against Texas, the number 1 team in the country in his debut.
When only 3 backup D tackles even played, and the other 2 backup D tackles played more than him, but didn't play much more than him. Like Will Smith got the most snaps, but it wasn't that many of the backup D tackles. By the way, I think Caden McDonald just looks great. So does Edric Houston. So, and like you mentioned, like when they go Rushman Packers or whatever Patricia's calling it, they go with 3 defensive ends, 2 linebackers basically as edge rushers, and then 6 DBs, including Devin Sanchez out there. So I love what they're doing. But yeah, man, Jarquez Carter getting 3, you can say only 3 snaps, but man, as you said, against Texas in the opener, get excited about young number 91.
Buddy, you and me are the starters of the Jarquez Carter fan club. We've been talking about him all summer, right? He's a football player, man. He looks like a D tackle. He's a dog, man. He's a compete. I love that guy. And I'm telling you right now, he's going to play more and more as the year goes on. I saw him get on the field. I'm like, 91. I think that's Carter. I'm going down my roster, checking my numbers. But Carter's on, yes. But the reality is that kid's a football player, man. You have athletes that try to play football, and then you have football players. Carter is a football player. And if you're a true freshman defensive tackle getting on the field against the number 1 team in the country in your first game in college, that means the coaches see something. I am excited about where he's going to go over the course of the year. We talked about the quarterbacks a little while ago. They're going to get better as the year goes on. It's really early. Both these teams are going to look different. Carter's another example of how different this team could look as the schedule goes on, because he's a guy I think is going to play. And judging by week 1, it certainly seems like the coaching staff agrees.
I'll be surprised if he is not at least the second guy off the bench at some point this year. If not the first DT off the bench. I think Will Smith Jr. will keep that job as the first DT off the bench, but I don't know, man. Tywone Malone didn't play very much when he was in there. It didn't seem very effective, so we'll see what happens. I will say this about Ethan Onionwa. He only got 2 they only had 59 offensive snaps. It's like what they've done. I was talking with Tim May about this yesterday. Like what they've done, it's like crazy. 59 snaps, and the length of the game is still the same because of extra commercials. It's not like in baseball where they've actually shortened the game. Like, no, there's just less plays for us to enjoy. But anyway, only 59 snaps. I think Onionwa had 15 of those, but he was in there for the really long drive. It's interesting, though, man. Philip Daniels played every snap at right tackle. And once you get into that, and Onionwa rotated in at right guard for Tegra just twice. And then everybody else, all the other offensive linemen played all 59 snaps. Saraveld, Montgomery, Hinsman, Daniels all played 59 snaps, and then they rotated a little bit at right guard. Your thoughts on Daniels winning that job at right tackle and that little bit of a rotation there at right guard?
Well, I think about the O-line here. We talk about needing to get some push in the run game, and that's a conversation that I'm sure is ongoing with the coaching staff. But how many sacks did we give up? 0.
Right.
There's something to be said about that. And, Philip Daniels is such a great story. He's an Ohio kid that went to Minnesota, wasn't recruited initially by OSU heavily out of high school, goes up to Minnesota, earns a job late in the season, and he has the opportunity to come back to Ohio State at home and compete. This is a kid, man, under the old system we wouldn't have had. And how many times over the years did we look at other teams in the Big Ten and go, oh, there's another Ohio kid. Right. They don't have spring football, so they take a little longer to get there, and Ohio State can get a little more developed guys from elsewhere. But it felt like we always got bit in the ass by Ohio kids that went to Michigan State, that went to Michigan, that went to wherever, right? And so getting a kid like Philip Daniels back to Columbus, that home state kid back in the mix here was huge. And then he came in, and nobody, if you had asked us in spring, hey, Ethan Onionwa won't start game 1, and it's not because he's injured, you and I would have gone, that's insane. What are you talking about? We would have been sure he was starting. Philip Daniels took the job, right? Onionwa I don't think was terrible. I think Philip Daniels just was so good they had to play him. And Onionwa rotating in, look, you're going to need these guys that have these depth positions. It's like Onionwa's going to play a lot this year. Again, I keep saying it's an August football game. And I'm glad the Buckeyes won, but we still have a long season to go. And we saw last year they needed 9 offensive linemen to start at one point or another over the course of the year. So, it was good to see the O-line be able to hold up to a very good Texas front and not give up any sacks. There's still some parts moving there, and it'll be interesting to watch. But I certainly think Onionwa was going to be in the mix every game to play a lot. It doesn't seem to me like we're going to be stuck on 5 for a while here.
See my guy Buck Rational before the game. He made a still basking shirt. He was wearing a still basking shirt at the game. That's my guy. And look at this. This is hilarious. He's like, it's too bad North Carolina doesn't play the University of Cincinnati this week, so Belichick could say, we're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati. That's so funny. Man, I was skeptical, but I didn't think they would get their butts handed to them by TCU like that. Oh, boy.
That was bad. And the first drive, they went down the field and looked like a football team. And I'm like, huh. Right. Because I was about 80% convinced it was going to be an abject disaster. And 20% of me was like, maybe there's something I don't know here. And after that, they're losing by 4 touchdowns. And Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend's on the sideline talking to him in the middle of the game. And I'm like, there's the UNC disaster I was expected to see. This won't, there's a reason.
Run this play. Bill,
how happy do you think Bo Atkinson was watching that game from Columbus after beating Texas and going, thank God I got out of that mess?
Everybody's a comedian today, and good stuff. Usually you say that when it's not funny. Mike Schaefer, Bill's girlfriend, has entered the transfer portal. I don't know.
He was talking to Sonny Dykes after the game. She's like, so this is what a winner looks like in college.
Bill's got a little bit more cash than Sonny, though. But who knows? Not that Sonny is hurting for money.
Did you see the post-game press conference?
I did not, no.
Oh, my God. It was they had balloons and glitter. It looked like a freaking prom or homecoming or something. And I'm like, oh, his girlfriend absolutely decorated this room. She was expecting it to be like, yay, Bill won his first game. Randy Moss, come give him a hug kind of thing. It was they have the normal professional backing and it's sponsored by, whatever. And then there's the logos. It was like a freaking prom entryway picture. And I'm like, that had to be his 20-something-year-old girlfriend.
Yes, I have to see that now.
I'm so glad Hulu is filming this because the shit show, if UNC doesn't have editorial control, which I'm sure they do, but if they don't, the shit show behind the scenes this year is going to be one of the greatest things we've ever seen.
One of the greatest things we might see Saturday night is Oklahoma take care of business. Now we'll see. Michigan mean, I don't think they're going to go there and get blown out by any means, but I think Oklahoma's going to win this game. I really like, and Oklahoma was a bad team last year. There's just no getting around it, but I think they did a good job bringing in the offensive coordinator from Washington State, but more important, brought his quarterback, John Mateer, who's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year. Again, I'm not sold on Venables as a head coach, but I think he's done a good job with both coordinator spots. They did a great job in the portal. They spent a bunch of money. I think Oklahoma is one of those teams that, like, their over-under for wins was 6.5. I took the over on that on a couple different times. It quickly shot up to 7.5. I still like that as far as over. I think Oklahoma's a dark horse team to make the CFP, not to like do damage or anything, but they're favored. They opened, I think, 4.5-point favorites over Michigan. I think I saw it tick up to 5.5. I like Oklahoma by a touchdown or more in this game.
You know, Michigan, I think, needs to be talked about a little bit here after watching week one, because I paid a lot of attention. First of all, shout out to Jack Lane, the New Mexico quarterback. He's a good friend of mine's nephew. He was the guy who transferred in from Idaho last year. They were the team that nearly upset Oregon with Jack. And New Mexico lost their entire roster. They replaced like 70 kids. If you watched Utah, that was their coordinator and their quarterback last year, the team that murdered UCLA. That whole group left. So if you look at like a metric of talent, New Mexico is one of the lowest recruited rating talents in any team in the country. And that team hung with Michigan for 3 quarters. If Justice Haynes wasn't so good running the football for them, that game might have gotten interesting. So I'm a little skeptical of what we're seeing from Michigan right now. They have to go to Oklahoma. They have a true freshman quarterback. I did not feel great about the way that their defense played against New Mexico. I feel like Oklahoma's in position to maybe put a beating on the Wolverines, and that would be the greatest thing ever for all of us in Columbus to watch. So I like Oklahoma. I think they're a good team. Like you said, they might fit that Indiana slot, being one of those lower-seeded teams sneaking in the playoffs this year. But I don't think Michigan's as good as they hope they are. And it just sets up for me early season game again, young quarterback. I think Oklahoma is the better team right now, clearly. So, yeah, I think I always root for the Big Ten in non-conference play, except for Michigan, and that definitely applies to this game next Saturday.
This is a first, I think. Last thing. Yesterday at the press conference, there were 0 mentions of Grambling. 0. Usually if Ohio State has a game like this, there will at least be a token question about the opponent. But this is, especially coming off the Texas game, I think this is a good game for the Buckeyes. I want to see a lot of young guys play. I don't want to see any injuries. Those are the 2 main things. I want to see a lot of young guys play, and I want to stay injury-free. And I can't wait to see the bands. And by the way, of the HBCUs, Grambling is the most decorated by far. When I was growing up, Eddie Robinson, as you, same with you. You're not that much younger than me. But seriously, they were like winning national championships like all the time under Eddie Robinson, and what he was able to do was really cool. So Steve Hellwagon did a piece for the site early yesterday, and he had reached out to the SID at Grambling over the weekend, but it was Labor Day weekend. Didn't hear back. He wanted to confirm that the band was coming. So he put in his preview yesterday morning, he's like, it's still unclear if the band's coming. I'm like, what? The band has to come. Yeah. It was confirmed. The band is coming. So I'm looking forward to seeing their band, the best damn band in the land. But yeah, man, I want to see a lot of young guys out there, a lot of young bucks. I want to see Lincoln Keenholz get out there and play. Maybe even Tavian St. Clair late in the 4th quarter. Only want to see him play 4 games just in case they do keep red shirts, which who knows if that's even going to be a thing, if that's even going to matter. But don't want to see Tavian play more than 4 games this year just in case. But your thoughts on the Grambling Tigers coming to town?
Well, it's a 3-band day at the Horseshoe because it's alumni band day too.
Yeah.
So if you're into that sort of marching band action, and if you're a Buckeye fan, I know you are, it's a heck of a day to go to the Shoe for that. Because Grambling has an absolutely fantastic band, and we don't say that much about other bands at Ohio State. But I will say that it's going to be a bit of a mismatch on the field, unfortunately. You know me, I'm never a big fan of these FCS opponents ever. I'd rather play a team from the Sun Belt or something that might have a little bit more of a pulse. It's still Ohio State, but we shouldn't really be worried about playing anybody, obviously, after seeing the Texas game. But this seems like a really good opportunity to get a lot of those young guys in. The next 2 weeks, really, you go Grambling and then OU. And OU is a much better team than Grambling, but still. OU actually almost upset Rutgers on the opening night this past weekend. Good effort from the Bobcats. But these are games that Ohio State needs to get under their belt. succeed a little bit, get some of these guys a little bit more opportunity to get in there and get some experience. They have these 2 weeks and then an off week before you start Big Ten play. Take advantage of them. Make sure you get the opportunity to rotate in some of these younger guys. I want to see Bo Jackson with 5-10 carries. I want to see Mylan Graham getting catches. I want to see the young guys getting involved here. I want to see, us getting to the second O-line. I want to see us getting to the third O-line. I want to see those DTs that we've been talking about. I want to see Jarquez Carter play 25 snaps.
Yes.
We probably won't play that many because Grambling probably won't have the ball that much, but still, I want to see that out of this situation. I want to see Malik Hartford. I want to see Devin Sanchez. I want to see Aaron Scott. I want to see all those guys. I want to see Petty John. I want to see all the young guys get on the field and have their opportunity to play, because let's face it, over the course of the season, this might not be a very common thing for some of these guys to get on the field, especially in a deep Big Ten with a challenging schedule. So this is a really valuable game from that perspective, from a program perspective, to let some of these guys get on the field and play in the horseshoe in front of 100,000 people and play extensively. It's one thing to go on where you're a little nervous and you've been on the sideline the whole game and you're looking at the crowd and you're like, oh my gosh, right? It's another thing to be like, all right, I got it in the field. I'm going to play this next series. All right, well, I'm focusing in. Hey, focus on what we're doing here. Kind of get past the moment. That's huge. That's a big deal. Because what happens when those guys are starting, say, next year or the year after? Well, they're going to have been comfortable already on the field. It's huge. It's important. Even if people think Ohio State's going to win by 60 points.
Great stuff, Bax. I appreciate it. You can catch his column every Sunday. It is The Bucket. Thank you, Mr. Baxendell.
As always, Dave, glad to be here on the #1 podcast for the #1 team in the country. Go Bucks.
Love it. Go Bucks. Thanks to Bax. I appreciate it, man. Coming strong as always. So thanks to Bax. Thanks to all of you. We're going to get Ryan Day after practice tonight about 6:30-ish. They call it the lightning round. We'll get him for about 8 minutes. One question. Not every reporter is going to get a chance to ask a question, but if you get called on, you get one question. Boom. Lightning round with Ryan Day. And we're going to get players. We don't know which players. We got the captains last week, so I bet we won't get any of the captains, which is fine. I like mixing it up. Not that I would mind talking shop with Caleb Downs every week, or Sonny Styles, or Saraveld, or any of those guys, or Brandon Ennis. Love talking to those guys, but I like mixing it up too a little bit. Hopefully we get some of the younger guys, maybe bring a Devin Sanchez out, bring some of these guys out that are a big part of this team. Jarquez Carter, guys we don't get to talk to all that much. But thanks to Bax. Again, keep it locked to Bucknuts. Big night of interviews after practice tonight. We're going to get the players right after Ryan Day, so we'll get the players probably like 6:40, 6:45, somewhere around there. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.